When you throw something at an angle, it follows this trajectory and it's called projectile. The projectile is thrown at 10 meters per second in this case at an angle 50 degrees with the horizontal. Assume that the starting point is A and the end point is B. The projectile starts at A, it goes this way, eventually reaches one highest point, let's call it P, and then started going down until it's at point B. We are familiar with the coordinate system. We know that Y is the vertical axis, so going up or down is the Y motion. Let's talk about this projectile. It starts at A and eventually it's going up all the way up to point P. Going up means it's traveling in the Y direction. So we can say that the motion is happening along the Y-axis. Now let's talk about the projectile going in the horizontal direction. It starts at A and it ends up at B. Eventually it has traveled to the right or in the horizontal direction. Since there is motion in the horizontal direction, we can say that there is motion in the x-axis. So now we have established that the projectile is traveling in both x and y direction. We need to now resolve the velocity into its x and y component. We have velocity v equals 10 meters per second and the angle is 50 degrees. If you remember the method of resolving component, let's draw the axis right here. This is x and this is y axis. The angle 50 degrees, this angle is touching the x-axis, so the x component would be velocity multiplied by cos of 50 degrees. Velocity is 10 times cos 50 degrees, and you can use your calculator to find the x component, Vx. The y component would be V times sine of the same angle, 50 degrees, which is 10 times sine 50 degrees. Use your calculator and find Vy. Now, the horizontal motion, it goes from A to B, and there is no acceleration in the horizontal direction. In the x direction, there is no acceleration. If there is no acceleration, there will be no change in the velocity. So the x component of the velocity at point A is the same as the x component of the velocity at point B. Or at point P or any given point, the x component or the horizontal component of the velocity stays unchanged. So velocity in the x at A is same as velocity in the x direction at point B or at point P. Velocity in x is constant. Vx is constant. We know the basic equation, distance equals velocity multiplied by time. That's when the velocity is constant. In this case, the horizontal velocity is constant, so the distance traveled in x direction would be velocity in x multiplied by time. And we know the velocity in x is calculated right here. If you know the time, you can calculate the distance traveled in the x direction, which would be the length of A to B. This would be dx. It's also called the range of the projectile. Now let's talk about the y direction. We know that the gravity affects the motion in the y direction because y is vertical and the direction of gravity is downward, which is negative y-axis. G would be minus 9.8. So whenever we use the motion in the y direction, you will have to take into account the acceleration equals minus 9.8 and use the equations of motion. If you do this one, v final in the y direction equals v initial in the y direction plus acceleration multiplied by time. This acceleration would be minus 9.8. And you can use the other equations of motion in the y direction as well. In every case, you will have to use a as minus 9.8 meters per second square. These are the basics of projectile. If you understand this, try something simple. You have this situation, you know the initial velocity, you know the angle, you know the time it takes for the projectile to go from A to B, 3 seconds. Find the range of the projectile, which is dx, or the distance from A to B, and find the maximum height that the projectile achieves, which would be this height. And let me know your answers in the comment below.